All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Moses Lake, for coming to Ephrata to meet with us. It is 10:01 a.m. and we are going to begin our joint meeting with the City of Moses Lake. I believe everyone's going to just run around the room real quick, but I'm Rob Jones. Dustin Sports.
Jim Anderson Cook, Tom Gaines.
Don Myers.
Deanna Martinez.
Gina Maple.
Mark Richard. Vic Lombardi.
Kevin Burgess. That's the table, Vivian.
Vivian Ramsey.
Brian Baltzell.
Rob Carlinzi, City Manager.
Is the rest audience? Any other staff? No, Dan? Okay. Joe? Okay.
And for everybody, including gallery there is water and cookies up here if you need a snack. Help yourself. Energy.
Is there an official agenda that we're going to work off today?
Yeah,
Are you enough copies for
I
everyone?
have a few extras.
I see you put the easy one first.
Yeah, go big or go home.
Yeah, so, talk about 4 years.
I'm not sure if you're running it or Rob's running it or we'll run it together.
There you go.
Well, since Rob and I had a prior discussion on the agenda, how about I get things kicked off here? Since we're taking care of item number 1, we do only have 2 hours today, so we'll have to talk a little quickly. The first item we would like to discuss this morning is transportation, and you'll see on the agenda, there are 4 items, and as I was discussing with Mr. Carlinzi last night, they're really all related in my mind. Not only in that they're under the heading of transportation, but geographically they are connected. And what we're looking at is the area of May Valley. Number 1, well, let me step back for a moment. The first thing that we have here is a lake crossing. So a few months ago, the council met over a 2-day period, 2 separate meetings to develop some priorities, one of which is to get started on a plan for a second lake crossing over Moses Lake. Part of the process was we identifying the location for this, but the reason I grouped that into these others is because I've heard more than once that the crossing from May Valley to roughly the Port of Moses Lake would be one potential location for that lake crossing. There have been other conceptual designs created that show lake crossings that would serve downtown Moses Lake, Moses Vista neighborhood, which are also intriguing. I think from our perspective, we're looking at commerce and being able to flow traffic to the Port of Moses Lake from I-90 would be a consideration in placing the bridge at that particular location. And so there's a lot of input that's going to have to happen, and we recognize that, again, there's been a lot of work done on this in the past, and I believe the county is even engaged in this same process. So, we don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel here, and I think we also believe as a council that something of this magnitude will not get done on the backs of Moses Lake alone, right? So, we will need a regional approach to it. Waukesha will probably need to involve along the way, considering the tie-ins to both 17 and I-90. Again, was the lake crossing, even if it were in a downtown location, presumably tie into Broadway, that's a very logical thing there. The DOT would need to be involved with that. Obviously, the lake crossings that would go in downtown are much shorter, but have other challenges as far as tying in existing roadway. The May Valley, the 17 has a lot less. And that year's investment as well. So really what we're looking for there is to compare notes, I think, over the next year. And then probably develop a public input process. Again, there are a lot of entities that want also other opportunities with the lake crossing to move the utilities across the lake. So we're gonna look at that as well. We have sewage and water needs for the future. You know, if we can move sewage across the lake with this crossing, place a treatment facility a lot more places. So, looking for those opportunities. So any questions or comments on the lake crossing before we move on?
No, something that would be nice to start working on the lake crossing would be acquiring the land on both sides of the lake. I mean, kind of step one, whether it's Hiawatha area, Road 10, or it's anywhere, we just need to at least lock up the,
I think it's
Right
critical
away.
to identify the location so then we know
Right.
what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
that's something that that's, I think, where we've been, like we said, the history, 40 years, but a location has never really been nailed down to focus on.
Well, the lake
Did
crossing
you have,
4 years ago was fine.
okay, let me zoom into that just a little bit.
200 million
did you guys do a study?
I,
The county has presented at our, at
That's
the
good.
EDC meeting, I believe, or our economic development meeting, 3 potential locations. Before you decided on the Drumheller Road, you were looking at the bridge crossings. So I don't know if it was just cost prohibitive that you decided to go the other way, but
Well, Drumheller, we have, what do we have into that, Andy, maybe 300,000?
Yeah.
Or a bridge crossing's about 300 million.
oh yeah, it's gonna be
So-
expensive.
Yeah, we don't have 300 million.
No.
Yeah, so-
That's where we're gonna be looking to the state, but we need backing from the county.
what about federal dollars?
It's gotta be,
Yeah.
the state's
Yeah.
not, doesn't have 200 million either for us.
Yeah.
So I mean,
That's the thing, it's-
So I think we, and I did some looking in, because when Wenatchee secured some lot crossings across, the river, and a lot of their money came from the feds. But it was a 20-year plan, it was a 20-year lift, and so I think that's, everybody keeps talking about, well, if you don't start it, we don't start the clock for 20 years or whatever the time it's gonna take to pull it off. And I think that's the deal. I think the other thing about May Valley, the reason it starts to make more and more sense, I talked about it at the EDC meeting this morning, that here's the deal, there's 2 good golf courses, there's a great park already, there's good boat launches, we're not gonna stop it from growing out there. And it's a desirable area, but transportation, I mean, obviously water's important, sewer's important, all that, but transportation is the thing that's really behind the 8 ball there. And so I think we've gotta keep moving that forward. Obviously, the interchanges, that's why this all makes sense that it's together. It's important what that all looks like all the way through, so.
My opinion is too, that we need to be working on it sooner than later.
Mhm.
It needs to be in the way from someone to continue. Because we know that the traffic is getting worse downtown, trying to cross the field, all that kind of thing, and it's not. There's safety issues involved as well as everything else. I've been on the field when there's been emergency vehicles have been behind, but there was no place for us to go. So we just, working with the lights, but both lanes were packed, so they were sitting back there with their sirens on, but we couldn't do anything. And so it's safety as well as. So,
I believe one of your options was Road 4. You can see there's roads on both sides of Road 4 going into the Cascade Valley. And that's a pretty low spot, so you're not having to have some big elevation. I think width of the lake is probably the widest point when crossing from road to road. But elevation wise would make it a little easier and serve that area and utilities and all sorts of things that could benefit both sides, Cascade Valley and May Valley.
Is that one of the drawings that you'd seen before?
I believe so.
That was my understanding as well. I haven't been privy to any of the pre-designs, but the alignment on Road 4 is the one outside of it being, to your point, not very wide portion of the lake, the one that aligns the best. And rights of way are already established. The Hiawatha crossing is, obviously the shallowest and narrowest. And as Dustin said, from a commerce standpoint,
That makes a lot of sense.
makes a lot of sense.
Isn't there an elevation issue that's pretty?
But there is, there is an elevation issue.
If I can interrupt briefly, I'm getting texts from the clerks upstairs listening in, taking minutes. And that's the microphone right there, but they're still having a little bit of trouble hearing, so if you
Okay.
can just speak up a little bit, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nobody speaks now.
I see Andrew's here, because we've looked at this every 4 or 5 years, we look at it, and the Port was gonna take on the project. But the connectivity for this to happen, it has to be federal dollars, the state
Oh,
has
yeah.
to take it over. And that's kind of where the ball drops. Andy, do you have anything, I don't wanna put you on the spot, because you may have already presented, but that's kind of where, like, this is bigger than the county, it's bigger than Moses Lake. So Port of Moses Lake was gonna at least start the project, so that we could start looking for federal funding on it, so that's where, I don't know.
Real sides.
That's about as much as I know as well.
Okay, where kind of the ball, I don't wanna say the ball got dropped, but that, it has to have a project at this.
It's one location that makes sense.
Want to share?
Oh, he was asking property owners and where Randolph Road goes, to the lake, the turnout there, that's owned by Pamp Myers. But he was just saying that that ties in with Randolph right now. It is a high spot, but here, you guys, what I'm gonna tell you is bridge making, there's lots of bridges that go up, down. And we're talking such an enormous amount of money, that isn't gonna be the deal killer. I think it's just securing the funds from the federal government is what we're gonna be doing. But like I said, Wenatchee has successfully done that twice over the Columbia River. Both of them were over 20-year, very organized regional approaches. And if you don't start the approach, we'll never get one. I mean, that's the deal.
Out of curiosity, how much public outreach is done with landowners on either side where, you're gonna have to buy land from private owners? How much outreach has been done and none?
Well,
Actually,
not true, not
there-
true.
there are
Some.
By
landowners there that
I have.
This body.
Yes.
granted land that you could go through, there are some out there that have.
I think, to me, that's where you would start, because you have to have willing participants.
The May Valley side, for where you would need a starting location, they're already in the ear of all of us about wanting a bridge. So that side, that side is, but it's the other side, and it depends on who it is and where it is.
And I think that's the commitment the council has made, is to at least select a location, because we need to design it before we can really go
Conceptually.
ask for money. So just pinpointing that location is our goal this year for 2026.
Just my perspective, I think it would be, it would strengthen your case if you had the residents that were on board supporting your case, saying, yes, we want this to have all of them on board, then those are great voices to add to
100%.
whatever request, that you would have.
We're gonna need a lot of help from you on that. Glad you're volunteering.
I didn't see that.
Well, did the Port of Moses Lake, did they get, because they were working on it, did they get a project number? Does anybody know?
What was that?
Did the Port of Moses Lake, did they get a project number on this?
No, I don't think, I don't know
Okay.
that. I don't know that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything, but
We just met with them not too long ago, and I believe this came up, and they didn't say
They
anything.
didn't say anything.
Okay.
We had just let them know, like, we're letting you know that is, we'll be working on that this year.
Okay, because I want to say it's about 2020 or 2021. Sam Castro was here. He was the one, and he just said, we are too busy to, take on another project. The Port of Moses Lake offered to go with it, so they were working.
I didn't even think about that. Do you think it's worthwhile to have MLIRD be a part of this process as well?
Well, we were just looking for somebody to kind of take it over. Yeah,
I think it would
kind of take it over and look at the
all
project number. And
it's gonna take
Yeah.
every agency that has some
Well, they
authority.
have a lot of big plans out for it.
But I think Keith Ellerson was our engineer at the time.
Rob,
So maybe-
you don't have to have the priorities, the long form of that particular priority, do you? I just want to make sure we understand what the objective is in the next year, so that leaving here, we can have an action.
Yeah, I can look it up really quick.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, and let's move on to the next thing we're talking about is May Valley infrastructure in general, which is the next two bullet points early. I mean, it's all May Valley or adjacent to, however you want to do the valley, right? So a major concern we're having, back to what Judy was saying about safety, that's the interchange at Hanson Road has some deficiencies. Concerning traffic flow, potential conflict points. I know I almost ran off the road there once in a rainstorm.
Weight restrictions.
And then the weight restrictions, right, which is a major deal. So our fire truck, for instance, cannot
Be loaded.
be loaded with water and travel across that overpass. So you're creating delay, right? So that's a primary area of concern. And then when Love's when Love's travel stop was placed there, obviously that ignited the conversation to the level that it hadn't been before. Although everybody already knew with the development out there that one day this was going to be an issue. So here we are at that day. We in the past have engaged WashDOT on this. Some of the conceptual drawings we've seen, I think, raised more questions than they provided answers. Here again, it's going to be a lot of opinion as to which of these existing county numbered muttered roads are the most logical to have. Any additional off ramps or on ramps, interchanges. One design removed the off ramp onto West Shore Drive. We thought that was very interesting, but maybe not a good idea. So there are all these wacky things floating around out there. We do know that the county's engaged in some long-term planning in this in May Valley. So, again, leaving here today, I think the idea is that we can compare notes on this as well and understand where your plans meet what our issues are. We are allowing water connections in the UGA, which is going to drive development that way. We're really, really excited about it. We'll get to number 3 here real shortly, but we actually gain water efficiency by having people develop out there because we're requiring them to access other means of water for their irrigation. All of that peak summer use out of the equation, which ends up getting our gallons per residential unit down from over 500 gallons to 200 gallons a day. So we will be pushing development that way as much as we can. We have a reservoir that we're planning on building there. Getting started on that process, I think. So there's some discussion as to the size of that reservoir, but that's full steam ahead as well. As you all know, this school district's also procured property out there, so that should shape the future to a great degree. So basically, can you remind me, Rob, specifically the Hiawatha Road F? What we had that project? Is that the additional interchange?
That's a possibility, the Hiawatha, an interchange at Hiawatha. Somebody else, one of the council members brought up F.
I did.
Who did?
I did. I rode F, again, closer to town. Hiawatha's down there a ways, alleviating stress for Lowe's also. Road F, there's one small stretch of F that's not built out, quite a bit further. It's my understanding, you guys would tell me, I believe the right of way is there. Or easement or something is there for it, I'm not sure. I've just heard that. But that would be another good, as far as I was concerned, arterial, and just the same thing. As we work through the Department of Transportation concerns and issues, F is just, it's pretty close to town. If there could be an interchange there. I mean, I know Hiawatha has an interchange, I mean, so you're not asking for another one. But again, just thinking about the long-term growth of Grant County and Moses Lake in general. That was a thought, was maybe potentially alleviating some traffic bottling it all at Hanson Road.
Are there any plans for the county to finish Road F? That there is a section that butts right to the city limits.
There are not. So all efforts are pointed towards Road E.
Okay.
That was what previous county engineer, part-time county engineer, however you want to call it. Road E made the most sense. It's wider. It connects to Panorama.
Okay.
And it's already punched through. So as phasing occurs on the Paradise Point development, Road 5 will get punched through. And so that the phasing plan is such that I think in phase 2, 5 gets punched through. So the hope would be that those folks leaving the north end of May Valley would take 5 and go down E. And then of course, connect to Hanson and or maybe
Sure.
would be the hope. But I do agree, it did look like the plan at one point would be, to take that traffic down F should that get punched through. The challenge there is the right of way is secured, but there's a wetland, and that's why it hasn't
Makes sense,
been
yeah.
constructed.
With enough pumps, you can make it a drive.
Has there been any talk of, to the state about that Hanson Bridge? I mean, honestly, if one truck hit that bridge and made it impossible to use, then where you got that?
So I know that there's been some dialogue for sure, and then even internally with contractors that have worked on that. Matter of fact, the last conversation, when I had a conversation with Pam Jr. at Central Washington Asphalt, the last time they just did work, and just in some general conversation, they've recognized that the DOT had said that we've got some issues here, meaning there has to be something done here. And I'm assuming it's dragging slow financially again. And so,
What's the possibility of taking that bridge out, lowering that? So it's,
right,
roundabout or
something.
something that completely change that intersection
Yeah, I don't
without a bridge.
know. Never seen
On
one on
90?
I-90, but not around here, but
Right.
there, well, go back East Coast and you see them on freeways all over.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it's, why you say that, no. I made a trip up the East Coast and all the way into Prince Edward Island and came across multiple of them on interstates.
It's very surprising. When you're from Washington. Yeah.
They're not small. They're quite large.
Right.
Anyway,
Okay.
you have to drive one, you have to see it in action to understand it.
Well, it's just a concern if that bridge were ever to go out, you're gonna have a mess out there.
Mhm.
And people are not gonna be happy. Because they're gonna have to drive all the way down to
And we've
Hiawatha.
we've had it. I mean, we've had it, not just with construction, but we've had situation where there's a wreck at the large upscale wrecks.
Yeah. It's
You
through
go all the way around the sand dunes.
Well, I know that if you're on that.
And that's one of the concerns where as May Valley's developed, pure and simple, the choke point in I-90, if there's a large, especially a fatality truck, I mean, if you get a bad wreck there, it's a long ways around and emergency services is a problem and everything. So that's been we got to get some options. Drumheller at the end of the day helps, no two ways about it. But
Right, that's,
something's got to be done.
Who's the least
Sure.
expensive
I
roadblock?
don't have any
option?
problem. I think it's great. I mean, I think it's just another great option.
What's the county's plan for next couple of years?
They're gonna continue to punch through a heavy rock area and then plan to gravel it and then start pursuing grant funds to finish it off.
Yeah, we're going about a quarter of a mile left.
Yeah, half a mile, yeah. But it's pretty rocky.
What's the time frame for that?
They're gonna start working on it pretty soon, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be doing rock removal yet this year, and then we'll, starting in January, we'll ask for some more budget and start working on the surfacing, the subgrade, all that.
That's gonna change the game.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I heard back from the port. The port has no plan to be the lead on that bridge crossing, but they feel it's more of a city and a county, but they will definitely support. That's what I go back to. So they've not really done a whole lot.
Sounds about right. I mean,
Well, no,
not a
I think we all
criticism.
start going and then we
Yeah,
have
no, they-
roadblocks and then we kind of like.
Yeah, they've never brought it up.
They have a lot of
in 2
things
years.
going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to follow.
Nobody's got it all the time, somebody's got to have
Okay,
it.
so, yeah, I mean, I'm not pleased to hear this, but, you know, in this talk, it sounds like safety, those concerns are there, right? Which makes the case far, far more compelling.
Sure.
To the state or whoever.
Feds.
Coupled with, again, if we have a lake crossing that's gonna help commerce, port, and all of that, there's all of those considerations which are positives for us, so. Developing that message, I think is the first thing we need to do to the DOT. And then, you know, as part of the lake crossing, we do recognize we need plenty of public input. And so, to me, the lake crossing, Drumheller, those sorts of things are gonna be determinative of the rest of what we talk about out here, right? So once we get those plans solidified, then the rest of the conversation will be a little bit more clear. But we do want to make sure that all of our constituents are heard, which is going to be difficult, especially with the location of the lake crossing. Not everybody's going to be happy. Sorry, Mark.
We really are.
Yeah.
Haven't found one yet, everybody's
Right, so
happy.
again, the decision-making process, I think, is going to be robust, and we will draw bright lines. Move forward.
Mayor, do you want me to read that language in the council
Please
rules?
do, yes.
So it's council goal number 6, identify a second lake crossing location. And there's 4 bullets under that. First one is identify and obtain stakeholder approval of a second lake crossing location. Partner with Grant County, WashDOT, and other affected stakeholders. Second bullet is prepare a realistic engineering estimate. Third bullet, set a completion date for the new bridge. And the last bullet is prepare a funding plan.
That's a lot in the span of a year for this project, so.
So the gentleman that came and talked with us from the federal, I don't remember his name, but brought up a lake crossing at that time when he was speaking to us. Yeah. And so asked him a time frame, and he said about 5 years, if I remember correctly. So I don't know, maybe we should be visiting with him as well.
5 years to get to what point, if you recall?
He didn't.
Yeah, I think it may be funding.
I think
Could
of
be.
funding too.
But I'm sorry, let's get it started. That's where I'm at. We can visit I don't mean to be rude, but we can talk about it a lot, but we need to figure out how we're going to get it started.
There needs to be some action items.
Yeah.
Action items.
Yeah, so we will be investing real dollars in the design, I think, this upcoming year. So, I know where you all are in your
Well, do
budget
you have,
process.
sometimes your governor has been landing in Moses Lake.
He's your governor, huh?
Well, I know, but our governor has a big interest in Moses Lake and has been, popping in Moses Lake, I think, more than we know, after we hear about it afterwards. So this would be a great opportunity if anybody happens to think for Moses Lake too. Just start working with the governor, our legislatures, our
Yeah,
kind
absolutely.
of bringing that up, and I think if we all have one message, like, okay, we're working on this, and by the way, we want the lake crossing, the more.
Right, and
We
again,
all-
you know, when we talk about water a lot in Moses Lake, I'm always talking about like, oh, we need to come up with this big board of what we're doing and tell the project stories. I mean, I think it's very much the same thing here, that we're the new Cape Canaveral or Kitty Hawk
Cape Canaveral.
of, yeah, so that's, you know, we have these things going on, so to tie all of the businesses and the, again, the opportunities to provide housing in May Valley where we're utilizing the other sources of water. These are all very positive things, so make sure everybody's telling that story, I think is where we start. Yeah, if we can get Boeing to cite something out of the port, that's a win for everybody in this room plus the port, right?
Well, I did not mean to say your government, but the
I'm
governor definitely,
only
no,
joking.
but the governor's definitely looking at Moses Lake.
Yeah,
And so, I
absolutely.
mean,
The
we
last
had
one certainly
more,
was, yeah.
more, visits from the governor
Mhm.
than I feel like we ever have in the last.
So to Judy's point, I mean, and we kind of like circled around it, I mean, we have to have step 1 and 2 done before we even go to them.
Yeah.
Because they keep on asking, what is it? I mean, just like when Newhouse came in, we were talking about, you know, getting the water. He says, do you have any design work or anything? And when we said no, you can see his body language. So we have to, you know, figure out where is the location going to be? I mean, at some point, we got to pick one. And then figure out that how do we start doing some design work on that?
Yeah.
And then you bring Tom Denton, who has the closest ear to the governor, you know, and DOT, right? So, I mean, that really is the guy that we should be using as our tip of the spear once we have those 2 parts in.
The other thing too, just as we're all talking and my brain's going, sorry, but maybe invite him and take him for a ride, take him across the field, take him out into May Valley so he has a visual of what we're talking about instead of just language. Have him see the growth that we have, take him out Wheeler Road so that he has a big picture of what we're talking about so that when we do approach him, he already is aware of what we're saying. I think would be a really good idea. Maybe I'm offering lunch, whatever, but invite him and take him for a ride. And also let him know, you know, show him the Hanson Road thing. I just think that he needs, you know, it's important that our legislators and our lobbyists know, but if we can get him engaged in the process, have him have the picture of what we're actually talking about, then maybe it would be easier to do. And maybe it's just an invite. Can you come to Moses Lake? I'll buy you coffee. I'm sorry, that's kind of, but I think that's my idea.
Andy, what are your thoughts on that? How do we get started?
The first thing we need is a location. I mean, you can't even do a design without knowing the width
So-
and.
I believe your office has some. I want to, Sam Castro had it.
Okay.
I will say Aspie
Aspie did a whole study.
did the only thing
SBI.
that when it came through the Aspie property on the south side, going through the north, I believe it came through a development, like a housing development, which you said you're not gonna be able to put a large road. But we've got to get the state, I don't know if you bring up a quad code where you start, but we've got to get the state to connect those 2 highways.
I'm not aware. I will look up Ashby when we get done and see what I can find. To me, the first thing you need is a definite location.
Because I've seen probably 3 different locations. Milwaukee. I think it was Milwaukee, because I believe Dave, when he was an engineer, had Milwaukee. It's a terrible name, Milwaukee.
It would change.
So is that 3 separate from what Aspie did?
Probably Aspie was one of them, but yeah, like I said, every 5 years, we kind of get this surge of, we're gonna put a bridge in, let's get started, and then.
I'm not
So,
worried about the elevation
Keep things
changes. You
moving
see that
along,
now?
I'm gonna kind of put a pin in
Yep.
transportation. Everybody hopefully is energized by that conversation. I'm gonna throw something into the middle of that though before we move on, which is, we're talking about May Valley a lot here, but there is the issue of Cascade Valley. So we are definitely re-examining, I think there's some desire by this council to re-examine the city's relationship with that area. So just so you're all aware, we would like to have some discussion on that, which I think is pertinent to this other stuff we're talking about, as far as siting or lake crossing or any of that. So just so you're all aware. We have challenges serving that area with our infrastructure at an affordable rate. So that's really what the limitations are, is trying to get water and sewer up and down that hill. And all of that is extremely difficult. So we just approved a residential development out there. So that's the only option at this point. So we really do need to re-examine that and see what the best path forward is. So keep that in mind as we talk about May Valley transportation. All right, item number 3 is water. It's a one bullet point topic, but it's probably the biggest one, at least in my mind, as far as where that could go. Just to catch everybody up very quickly, we, along with several other communities in this area, Columbia Basin, have water shortage issues. Further describe that. It's based on our reliance on the aquifers for our water. So the same story Lynn tells, we could tell in a few years if we're not careful. So we had a pretty good discussion about this last night. The staff at Moses Lake has developed a white paper, I think we'll go ahead and call it that, picture, on our water issue and the way forward. So some things we talked about last night were legislative fixes or legal fixes otherwise. Because the state has given junior water rights to the agricultural users east of town, for instance, for a number of years with the expectation that they would eventually be taken off of that and put on the canal water. The aquifer in the meantime has been depleted significantly. So we don't take a position that's adversarial to the ag community whatsoever because they're just using the water that was available to them. Why wouldn't you? It's the state here that really has, overlooked what they did so many years ago and just let the status quo continue rather than build out the rest of the project and do what they said they were going to do. So that's one approach we're taking, is to say, okay, how do we remedy this? That because of the extended use of the deep water, aquifer water, right? We're in this situation now. So how can we fix it? One suggestion would be say, maybe you could give us shallow water rights.
Trade those water rights.
Yeah, trade.
Or whatever you
That's
want.
more
Give us
reasonable.
back.
Right, so we'll, primary position for the city is we believe we're owed some water. Again, not at the expense of the ag community. It's just this is what happened, and we're very optimistic because of the new development that's going on. But regardless of how much ag can be taken off the deep aquifer, the problem still exists. I think more is being drawn than is replenished every year, and our well data indicates as much. So what we're really looking at is getting out of that deep aquifer. The challenges that come with it are more contamination. So we have requirements for filtration that we didn't have before. One of our wells will experience high manganese, so we're having to filter that. It's kind of challenging, but not brand new. It's not, you don't just go buy the manganese filter at the back. It has to be designed for the flow and all these things. So, and then there's a testing process over time. Filtration. So, really, there are some other things that would be more regionally based. Again, the legislative fix would not only help us, it helps a number of communities, not just in Grant County, but also Adams. So we would appreciate if the county is just aware that this is what we're doing. There are other possibilities that we discussed last night. So shallow water can be obtained through a number of sources. You can use a shallow well in the ground and suck it out that way and whatnot. There's always the discussion then of whose water is it, right? Which introduces limitations into what your planning could be. So some wild concepts that I don't think are actually that wild would be like to obtain water rights to withdraw directly from the river, the Columbia River, and then piping that water throughout the county wherever we drop it off. So recently we've seen Ephrata have water supply issues where they're oil orders. So having more sources of water available to communities and make those things happen, I think is going to benefit everybody. So with a pipeline, that's how you do that. But we would need to set up some sort of county-wide or region-wide water utility, which heretofore doesn't exist, right? For agricultural water delivery, certainly through the districts, that's what that is. But there is no municipal water supply that's regional based, not in this area.
I did have a thought, if I can interrupt, the PUD, it's a public utility district, could that potentially fall under their utility? And you could just pipe water following their transmission lines.
Yeah,
They already have the
that
right of way.
sort of concept is there. The other concept is that you look at the irrigation projects and say, okay, look at all the real estate they have there. You just put the pipeline right next to the canal, uninterruptible water, but you've already got the easements and everything taken care of. So where we can take advantage of the Bureau's land acquisition, yeah, absolutely. And both instances make a lot of sense, but I think the utility itself would be its own entity. I don't think the PUD would be. You don't need to take that on, maybe it would need to. They got their own issues with the river to deal with.
That's being done nearby too.
What's
It's
that?
in Benton, Franklin, that they're already pulling out of Columbia.
Yeah,
So we had tours set up for that last year, and I just never completed them with Sustainable Water Coalition. So we'll probably get back on that.
Yeah, I spoke to a farmer yesterday. So, yeah.
yeah, and as our new city manager's finding out, there's a lot of people interested in water around here. So you have these coalitions and boards and organizations and not even mentioning any of us in this room, right? So finding the right people to get into the room to have a conversation about it. Again, I think in the past it becomes for some reason this like, well, it's ag versus everybody else. And I don't want it to be that way because I don't think that's really the way it is. Water is water, right? It's H2O no matter who's using it. So anyway, that's going to be part of the challenge here again is to get the right advocates in the room and understand what it is we're trying to do. But we're not the only ones with the problem. So I think that's county in that regard.
I think there's every community in the county's got water issues. I mean,
Yes.
there isn't anybody in Grant County. I mean, it's much bigger than Grant County, but there isn't anybody in our county that doesn't have, I mean, I shouldn't say doesn't have water issues, but most of them, especially potable. But even ag users, I mean, obviously the east side of the county out here's got problems. So,
If we were to stand up a county utility, that would be the vehicle by which we could take on the sewer line.
Oh, okay, so that would be a utility, would be sewer and water. Okay.
Instead of being a standalone
Okay.
7-mile project with
So there's a gentleman by the name of Dave Dormeyer who's on the Quincy City Council. He's got some ideas on this sort of thing. So he and I engaged Mark Maynard with USDR some time ago about this. We talked about surface water from Moses Lake. So there's another possibility, which I think some belief there is that the river water is far superior. I mean, for a number of reasons, it's better to draw from there. Further away from us, but the universe.
It's really preliminary, but is the point of withdrawal been discussed?
No, not really. Yeah, I mean, Yes, to a degree. So there's a local person in Moses Lake who happens to have a water right on the Columbia down by Crescent Park. So, you know, that area, so you'd pipe it up the hill, basically. I think Quincy's sort of a high point in the county, and you can drop it to other locations from there. Right, for us, we presumably would just go down whatever road, either 90 or however that's gonna look, right? Mhm. And then if you carry us someplace, it's off there, however that would go. Again, there's so many people talking about these issues that it's almost too much conversation. I think Rob mentioned to me yesterday, he had heard an idea of, is it Trout Lake, Rob? Round Lake,
yeah.
thank you. So that could be another natural reservoir that you could draw water. A lot of this stuff, again, it's just finding a starting point and saying, yeah, that's what we want to do. Moses Lake could just, our strategy could be just to drill shallow wells and say, well, we've solved our problem. But I don't think that's necessarily our thinking at all.
And a reason for that is we're thinking 50, 100 years out, and 30, 50 years from now, we won't even know how the shallow wells are gonna be doing.
Well, I think drawing directly from the river gives us just a stronger position than the county.
Well, and they're not going to allow us to do that forever. At
That's what
some
I'm
point, they're
saying,
gonna be
so
like, yeah,
when
that's
we,
not allowed
once you
anymore.
get your straw in,
Yeah.
it's there.
Even if it only feeds a small area to begin with, then.
But it's proof of concept. And then that, so we've been struggling also, we have our own MLIRD, again, needs to be part of this conversation because it's always been an issue of how you use that water, you know. So that question still needs to be answered in all of this, which I think is really a county question. Okay.
So just a quick question, do you even know, how many farms, how many acres are going to the lake that would maybe transition over to the new water route, the widening of the? Does anybody know?
You mean like if we were to draw water from the river?
No, your farmers, your ag farmers that are
Uh-huh.
pulling from the lake. So
Okay.
if they.
I don't
can-
know if are any.
Are they
pulling from the lake?
There's a
transitioning?
few. No, there's a few.
Yeah.
Okay,
tiny,
when you
tiny
mentioned,
tracts.
Not off
okay.
the lake,
And
no.
that's the other thing, so like, depending on where you are in Moses Lake, like, do you, Rob, are you in the district?
The irrigation
MLIRD?
No.
So everybody who's in the district pays, but they
Well-
don't have a,
I'm on East Logan Basin.
okay, they don't have a means of actually getting the water. You know, it was a joke, like when we were dealing with our water shortage, I called Jeff Foster, who was on the board at one time. I said, well, could I just like get a water truck and go down to Moses Lake and fill it up and bring it to my house? Yes, you could do that, but otherwise there's no.
Okay, they don't have a delivery system.
No.
Yeah.
Because Kittitas County and Ellisburg, the newer development, well, probably the last 20 or 30 years, and newer ones, they actually cannot water their yard. I think they can do their front yard on municipal water, but the backyard has to be irrigation.
Right.
So they work with the irrigation district. So for them to put housing development, they have to have.
Tri-Cities is that way. They
Yeah.
have their own
Water.
irrigation.
We never developed that type of infrastructure here. 'Cause at that time, everybody just thought, oh, this deep aquifer water is so good and it's so plentiful.
So it's not. Yeah, it's not. Okay.
And that's the idea in the May Valley area is you can have our water for potable water only, not irrigation.
Okay.
That's
So
going
they
forward.
will be using, we hope, MLIRD water to irrigate.
Or it's
Okay.
just gonna be
So-
desert.
Or they're gonna have to create their own irrigation system in some capacity through
Are those
shallow well.
updated in your code already then? So the new developments beginning?
Well,
you know,
it's in our,
pipeline or
it's in our
something?
ETA policy for urban growth area.
Because those few neighborhoods out there now are running off of well water, right?
Ooh, like, give me an example.
Tahoe.
Well, those are not,
Those are
not,
in the city.
that's in the city limits. We're talking about in the UGA,
So anything like Moses
that will
Lake-
eventually come in.
It would have just made sense to irrigate.
Oh, 100%. Years and
Even
years
if
and
there
years
are new
ago.
ones now.
Yeah.
There's not a neighborhood around Moses Lake that shouldn't be irrigating.
Well, it was either the lake or it bordered some irrigation canal at one time. And that's what you see in Tri Cities, is they're pulling out of their canals for all their housing developments down there.
And all that water comes from the river.
Yeah, so another thing you've got also is, Pelican Point, right, which is a Lambert.
Pelican Point is not, but
It's not, okay. But they have a class A, class A water system, right? So that's another thing to consider, those are county residents that water system may not last very much longer.
Well, they're struggling.
So that utility, if it were created, could be a very elegant solution for that sort of thing. Cause I know that there are people out there who don't like the A word. And I'm fine with that, personally. Okay, we are about halfway through, and I think we're to item number 4, unless anybody wants to talk further about water.
Well, I just wanted, so how do you go about developing a water district? Go to the voters? Sorry, I'm trying to look for a solution as we're talking about this.
Yeah, it would be, we'd have to look into it.
Okay.
We dismissed it because, for a number of reasons. So what it was, for those in the room at the table, what has been on the table or proposed is, from an economic development standpoint, the gorge is at capacity with their on-site septic systems. So they don't have the ability to expand, which is significantly hindering the ability to expand. So they would like to solve that by piping their effluent to potentially to George, which would require a significant investment in George's existing infrastructure at a high cost, and also create 7 miles of pipe, right? At what expense, and who installs the pipe, who maintains the pipe, all of those things, which is what started the conversation about a county utility district, since the pipe would be in the county right of way. There wasn't a whole lot of interest by Live Nation to participate in funding the costs. I don't remember what the numbers were, but they were crazy, of the expansion that was going to be necessary to the city of George's infrastructure, and it kind of fell dead at that point. But and there also wasn't a whole lot.
Well, and George didn't want to be responsible for this huge septic system in case their number one customer backed out and they were
Sure.
stuck with something else.
Yeah,
Fair
well,
enough.
that makes a lot of sense.
So, yeah, we're trying to deal with,
Exactly. Meanwhile, they're trucking the quantity of waste that they're trucking out of the gorge is the equivalent to the amount of waste that's generated by an entire season of Seahawks football at the stadium. Just to put it in perspective. So,
Fair amount.
yeah. But it didn't make a whole lot of sense in the moment to create, an entire, special district or a utility for 7 miles of infrastructure.
Sure.
But,
so would you do just a corridor, like a I-90 corridor, or would you do it countywide?
Once you set the district up, you have capabilities.
That's where you,
Right.
well,
Right.
Yeah, you'd have to do some math.
you would hate to do it
Math.
countywide, and
the
then the
same
people
thing.
way up north
Yeah.
or further down south paying into a district. that
But
they're
It's
not
hard to
able
get off the
utilize.
ground.
Normally,
It's like
most residents are my big concern. I don't know, but Cooley Dam or whatever, what their water situation is. I can't make this.
So I would think maybe we just section it for now where we know there's a need,
Yeah,
kind of a highly populated.
again, I'm not trying to exclude those
No,
of my
but I just
thinking,
feel like
but I
we
just think
could
also, do they have
deliver.
a problem?
They don't. Yeah, they don't. Like your city, Cooley City, homes up there, they don't have. There's groupie systems up there that are functioning just fine.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think Royal still has so much seepage for the canals, so I don't think we have well
Right,
issues
but
there.
Warden, I'm assuming
Warden
that
would probably, would need,
Fredo, we know, so forth.
yeah, so it's gonna be that.
My understanding from Pat Moss's Warden doesn't have a water issue. They have too much water.
Who?
Warden.
Yeah, the water is just.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
over
true.
there. Now, it's higher.
Yeah.
In the ordinary.
Yeah.
Parts of the ordinary.
Yeah, that's why I joked with the mayor of Warden when we were at that meeting, the AGCT. When can we talk about buying water from you?
Oh, they have more than they need?
For their 2,000.
Healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting, good to know.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, so I am gonna put a pin in the water topic. Are you satisfied?
Okay, well, I'll look at you.
Yeah, well,
Well,
you guys will have that done by
way
next
beyond
week,
me.
right? Yeah.
Way beyond me.
Yeah,
More than
Jim,
2
is that
hours.
okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Andy.
Well, and I'm not gonna lie, I have septic tank pumpers that need a place to put their sewage.
Right.
Because the Department of Ecology won't let land application and cities won't do it. So all my ag farmers are mandatory. Where do you? We'll work on it. Andy, you're on our team here.
Especially
Well, if
utility,
you want to be on the bridge, we can do the bridge. project.
There we go.
especially utility district in your right away, sorry.
Okay, so item number 4 today is planning, partnerships, and coordination, and I'm going to let Mr. Cook take over at this point.
Yeah, so we have recently re-engaged with, Rob and I had a discussion several months back. Just kind of state of the union, partnerships between city and county, and where those stand. So fortunately, we are headed into our periodic update of our comprehensive plan. Hasn't been touched since 2018. It used to be a plan that was updated every 8 years, now it's being updated every 10 years. And that update is due by end of June in 2027. We have started that update this month, as a matter of fact, and it coincides with a periodic update that the city is undertaking as well. The cool thing is that we both have the same consultant, so we can do this in step. So one of the elements of that update is taking a look at our countywide planning policies and the policies that concern mostly. The largest policies that concern this room is policy 1 and policy 6. Policy 1 is, the UGA, the boundaries of the UGA, disputes in the UGA, shrinking, growing the UGA. And then policy 6 is how do we work together in said sandbox. I don't think that there's really any language that we need to change. We just, need to recognize that it hasn't been updated since 2009.
Right.
So we probably need to get up with the times. But a really important factor with the countywide planning policies is that we have an interlocal agreement established between us that we've never had, to my understanding. I drafted a draft interlocal agreement, and in full transparency, I scoured interlocal agreements across the state, and the one that I presented again to Rob, but several years back to the Association of Grant County Cities and Towns, was one that is executed between Skagit, Whatcom County, and City of Bellingham. Seemed to be the closest one that checked all the boxes as a starting point, as a launching point. So that's where I would really like us to get to, is to finally have that interlocal agreement between us, so that there's some enforceable development regulations inside of that UGA that allow me, at the county, to hand over these projects to Vivian at the city, so that we can enforce your development regulations. Right now, I'm handicapped in that the only concurrency requirements that are in my Unified Development Code are for water and sewer, meaning that I don't have any levels of service standards inside of that UGA for traffic, for fire, for schools. I don't have any impact fees, so I can't charge, connection fees, so to speak, or fire mitigation fees so that we can build a fire station out there. But you can. So with the interlocal agreement, I can push the Paradise Points to the city so that you can start mitigating for those. So I would really like to see that take place. We've talked about, there was a planned growth committee that was established, I think back in 93, 92. That's how we drafted our first set of countywide planning policies. So for whatever reason, that planned growth committee came to an end. I would like for the board and the council to reconsider reestablishing a planned growth committee. Lewis County is one that has a really effective planned growth committee. They meet in May and June annually when they receive their annual comprehensive plan amendment applications, so that they can sit and review those together. Should there be, a site-specific amendment, potentially for an expansion of the UGA, although I would discourage that. But nonetheless, that's where the county and the city can get together and stack hands on, on these type of amendments. Or that could take place, Rob and I discussed maybe the county have a seat at the table at the Association for Cities and Towns. Something where we're meeting like this, having discussions like this. And I think that the comprehensive plan coordination kind of speaks for itself. So, that's what I spoke to at the very beginning. We're in this update. Again, we have the same consultant, and Vivian and I get along great. Plan on continuing to do that unless we fight over housing allocations and
Arm wrestling.
So I just think, it's for, I think once in a long time, we have a real good opportunity, great opportunity to finally, stack hands and get this thing arm in arm. Yeah. All.
I think that's a lot of what we've been saying. We would like a lot more cooperation as far as these things are concerned, and recognizing the inefficiencies in that isn't cooperation. Not to mention it just doesn't make doing any of this very pleasant, right? When we're not working together, so.
I will add that, it's not gonna be easy. So,
Right.
We have some hard decisions to make out in May Valley, in that, the city, as you well know, has very rigid development regulations, curbs, gutter, sidewalks, things like that. And so when you're developing out in May Valley and we have allowed development to occur that does not have curbs, gutter, sidewalks, it makes sense.
Right.
So those are going to be tough decisions. And we have briefly, Vivian and I and Nate have briefly discussed, maybe introducing some alternatives to those regulations that make sense.
My thought on that was that the plan with the UGA is to eventually be within the city. So that's why having it up to city code made more sense, because then it matches everything else as it gets brought in.
Yeah.
But again, trying to match it with what's already out there might be difficult unless, if it's a big major subdivision, they usually kind of gate themselves off into their own little neighborhood anyway, so then that's what that looks like versus what's next door in an older neighborhood.
Yeah, I'll give you a very specific case in point. Commissioner Jones and I were out touring last week, and we diverted, went down West Shore, and sorry, it's a sensitive subject.
No.
We have those.
Went down, height challenge, but beautiful nonetheless, West Shore. And I have a short plat application on Wine South, in the middle of Wine South. Now, had that been a city project, curb gutter sidewalks, at least 3/4 width curb gutter sidewalks, does it make sense for him to put in curb gutter sidewalks 3/4 of the way down Line South? Now, eventually, should those other parcels, decide to develop, but most of them are in production, or being farmed actively. That's the type of thing I'm talking about. What makes sense at the time, and not kick those things down the road. I don't have the answer.
That's what we've done in the past as covenants, but
Right.
that comes in very painful situations later.
That's what I mean by kicking it down the road. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's those are hard decisions that we don't have the answer for. So nonetheless, but willing to have the conversations, and I think there's always solutions.
Sure, 100%.
So the planned growth committee, can you describe what that looks like before? Sorry, I didn't quite understand that one.
Well, I obviously wasn't here before, but I do have a bylaws from Lewis County's Planned Growth Committee. So the members, so in Lewis County, and I think it looks very, very good. The PGC shall be comprised of one elected official or their designee from each incorporated city in Lewis County and the chair of the Board of County Commissioners. And the chair can delegate the position to another VOC member. The Development Services Director, which is me, is the facilitator, and shall serve as a facilitator and is not a member. So there'll be a long-range planner, staff member on the Planned Growth Committee, and I would assume, without reading this whole thing out loud, that there would probably be a long-range planner or the equivalent on the city side.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll give that to you to look through.
I'm gonna ask Gil. Gil, you've been here for a wee bit of time. I think for some of the older ones have been here
Yes.
for the duration.
Right.
What did we have and we disbanded it? It was something?
Yeah, so I was the last chairman of that committee,
Okay,
and you were just coming on,
okay.
so
So it's
the,
your fault.
yeah.
Well, no, I'm like, we had a
Everybody's
committee here. What happened? It did kind of go, I think we had to do some stuff, then it would go away. But, okay, so
So I think-
Gil, what did it look like?
Each city had a representative. I think where we started to run into a little bit of the snag was the county commissioners wanted 3 representatives. And the rub with the cities was you only get 1, right? And so we kind of went back and forth with that. We made the amendments, which were the last ones that you've seen, Jim. After that, I think, because obviously there was some potential litigation back then between the city and the county, right? Kind of solved that. We did that revenue sharing agreement. The city paid off the county over that 10-year period. And then it just died on the vine. There just wasn't any interest. We would bring it up during council retreats, and there just didn't seem to be any interest to continue with it. But I'm glad that you were bringing it up. Obviously, with my involvement in projects with you folks, talking to Jim, Vivian, it's much needed, overdue.
And for the record, I was just I think there was some animosity between the city and the county commissioners, and I was new to that, so I wasn't a part of, I think it had happened previously.
That's a
There
disclaimer.
was just some history there. I'm
It's a
just
disclaimer.
not sure what
Yeah,
happened.
it all worked out.
All right.
Oh, no, Vic, what? Was I part of that?
What?
Oh, you're laughing. Like, we've always tried to get along with the
No,
city of Moses Lake.
I wasn't laughing at anything in
Okay.
particular, I was just smiling. Yeah,
It's not allowed in here.
okay. I'll frown.
I'm like, you know something, Vic.
I can start by frowning on number 5, so, okay.
First one.
Yeah.
So why no comprehensive plan in 2021?
We updated it in 2018.
Or you wanna?
It was,
7 years
it was an 8-year cycle, but it's changed to 10. So, and we were supposed to in 2026, and then Commerce and COVID and all the things, they changed Grant County to 2027. So now we're off cycle, but we will then update again in 2037, when I'm retired.
Congratulations. Okay. Okay. Anything else we want to add on item number 4? Any questions, comments, or concerns there? So we understand what we're after.
Like I said, I think it's a pretty good opportunity. We're both doing comprehensive plan updates, and this is a perfect
Yeah,
opportunity
and this is,
to get this stuff together.
items 2 and 3 tied to this perfectly, so. Everybody gets that concept? All right, next we want to talk about shrub step, item 5.
It's everybody's favorite
No,
topic.
we don't. Yeah, I think, based on what I've been hearing, the county has much more exposure to this than we in the city do, but, or has had rather. But it is still a concern of ours as we, LKQ is a major, business entity that's moving to Moses Lake. Hopefully you're all aware of that. It's important for us. But they also have, I think, 160 acres site where they store vehicles. And so shrub step for them became an issue, which I think we worked through, but it wasn't easy or elegant, certainly, to get to the finish line on that one for LKQ. I think it created unnecessary heartache and cost and whatnot. So getting to
Okanagan Fruit had the same issues.
Okanagan Fruit had the same issue. While you're here, any others that you can think of, Gil, in the Moses Lake area?
Well, obviously we have some out at Moses Point, but we worked through that through Jim. Obviously we've got some subdivisions and a new driving range project we're working on. But if you just 1 second on that Okanagan Fruit, that to me, because Fish and Wildlife got involved and there was a big hubbub about a ground squirrel, it didn't happen. So that group hired me. They're out of Virginia. They spent $65,000 on nothing because nothing was found there. I guess the message is look at what that shrub step really looks like. And one of the things that we've always said on the development side is local government needs to question Fish and Wildlife more often rather than just saying, if Eric shows up and says, well, hey, you've got to do this walkthrough. The dentist office by Lowe's, I had to do a walkthrough with him for ground squirrel right next to Lowe's. That area has already been developed. There are other projects, but I think,
Urban ground.
right. So there's all that area out in May Valley. I mean, you still have a bunch of it out there, but
Oh, it's a nightmare, because on the Royal Slope Port, we have shrub step overlay on the port area, which the intent is to build out, and now we have shrub step.
Yep.
But I don't know if it was an error or.
It's not an error. They just
It's-
arbitrarily did all their maps.
It is a nightmare.
Look at all the circles that have shrub step that are irrigated, tilled ground.
So at one point I had heard that the county was looking at banking of shrub step. Is that something that's still on the table and something we can take advantage of?
Well, you can't, because you're too big to have adopted our critical.
Oh, yeah, we can do this.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we are attempting to stand up a pilot mitigation bank, but, as you know, it should be no surprise to the room. Although, I guess I should back up. So we are currently in our comprehensive plan cycle, and I have drafted chapter 2524 to our Unified Development Code, which is the backbone for shrub step mitigation bank. And that chapter basically is the structure by which an individual could submit to the county a banking site, which is what we call an MBI, or a master banking instrument. Now, that MBI varies from site to site. So depending on whether the site is comprised of solely restoration activity, meaning you're creating shrub step, or preservation, or a combination of both, that's going to determine the credit generation. So every banking instrument is different. The one that's in front of us right now, if 25-24 is adopted, the pilot bank that's in front of us is a combination of preservation and restoration. And the restoration is 750, it's 1,000 acre parcel area. The restoration piece of it is 750 acres. And this is where we differ in opinion between the county's position on what the credit generation should be and Fish and Wildlife's opinion on what it should be. Our opinion is that it's a significant amount of financial, it's going to take a lot of financial consideration to create shrub stuff, meaning we have to drill and plant shrub, monitor all the things. So we were proposing a credit generation of 0.5 to 1. Fish and Wildlife came back and proposed 8 to 1.
Of course they did.
So although we might be able to successfully adopt 25-24, I don't have a whole lot of confidence that when we get to a point where we accept the application for an MBI and we go to the IRT, the interagency review team, which consists of the county, Fish and Wildlife, potentially the conservation district, potentially, a tribal member, and others, that we're going to be able to, get to the end of the line and approve that document. So that's a long version of the update on where we're at with the bank.
It's going
Now-
very well.
It's going well.
Yeah.
Now, to Gil's point, I would encourage you to, and I don't know what your critical area, or I haven't read your critical area ordinance, but the mapping is just a tool. That's just a starting point. And Fish and Wildlife's mapping has changed, Mark. So now they have WISRI mapping that has excluded the corners of those circles.
Right.
So that's really helped our department
Sure.
out extensively. But again, it's just a launching point. So if you've got a really good biologist that goes out there and does that study and drafts it in such a way that allows Vivian to make a determination, and or go out and do a site visit, and then
That's the key.
that's
Sure.
yeah, that's the key. So, and that's what we were able to do with the water tower situation.
We did that multiple times, even just with wetland areas, similar, unfortunately, a bunch of hoops that you have to go through.
Jim, what is the current ratio on wetlands right now?
Oh, it's all over the map. I mean, it goes all the way to 16 to 1.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so, I mean, wetlands, yeah, it really depends. I mean, we don't have a lot of 16:1 type wetlands around here. But yeah, it just really depends on the type of wetland, so.
It's painful.
It's just painful.
You're gonna see people get angry.
Oh, I know.
They own their own property and they're like, what is the county doing? I'm like, trust me, it's not the county.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so, yeah, actually, I will say, I mean, the restrictions on this are getting tighter, though. Is that your perception of it?
The
Or
recommendations.
The mandate is getting stronger.
Yeah, the recommendations are they're becoming larger. So Fish and Wildlife, and this might lead into, sources for power generation, but just so council knows, the world that I live in every day is in large scale solar. And Fish and Wildlife just came out with new recommendations, new guidance, so to speak, for large scale wind and solar. It hadn't been updated since 2009. And now with the new update that dropped last Thursday, the recommendations for disturbances to what, class 1 habitat is absolutely you can't mitigate for it, can't disturb it. Class 2 goes all the way up to 5 to 1. So yes, it has become more stringent because it was 2 to 1 before.
Okay. Great news. Next up, we have item 6, which is sources for power generation. So we're just touching on this with large scale solar. The reason you're dealing with that is because they're going to be moving forward with that type of project here. Is that?
I have 7 applications in my office for large-scale solar totaling 2.2 gigawatts. They're in varying states, from approval and driving piles at this moment to waiting for determinations, threshold determinations to be made, and their day in front of the hearings examiner.
That's as much as the dam.
Yep. It's a lot of power, but it's also a lot of, it's a lot of land.
A lot of squirrels, little people.
Yeah, right. A lot of glare.
Dwarf piggies.
That's 22. How many acres is that? Do you know?
12,000.
So there's a 2.2 megawatt facility that operates out in, I don't remember how many acres that is. It's not like their higher power density calculations, which creates more issues
Yeah, and
environmentally.
And just, for the room, just because it's, been applied for does not mean that it's going to be built. The challenge that all of these applications face is that they have not been granted interconnect with the PUD.
Correct.
And, so the 2 of them that are under construction right now, they are, of course, approved to interconnect to the PUD, but the PUD has to make significant upgrades to not only the Rocky Ford substation, but they have to construct a substation for QV Solar, and they don't have the switchgear and won't have the switchgear until 2026. The next one up is a 300 megawatt facility on the west side of the county, and the PUD is nowhere near granting them approval. And if they were to receive approval in January, which is what they think will happen, they wouldn't begin construction until 2027. And a lot can change between now and 2027.
On these 2 projects, where are they as far as transmission lines?
So transmission, they have to build substations for both of these,
Right.
and they're both connecting to the Columbia 115-230, and destination is Rocky Ford. And again, there's significant upgrades that have to occur at Rocky Ford in order for them to come online.
Okay.
But it doesn't touch the demand. Those 2 facilities, one's 130 megawatts, the other one's 120. And that's just tip the iceberg of what the PUD's backlog is.
So yeah, part of the reason we wanted to bring this up is just make sure that you all here at the county understand our position on power, first of all, which is this council recognizes that power is very, very crucial to the future of not only Moses Lake, but Grant County, and recognizing the 2.2 gigawatts rather, that the dams produce is essentially gone. So, part of this discussion is going to be what type of power generation that we all are comfortable with in our area, right? So some people are very, very pro solar, but when you start talking about 12,000 acres of it, people's opinions might start changing. So, there are other concerns with other types of energy, nuclear being one that sticks out in my mind. Is there appetite for that here in this community? down in the Tri-Cities, and those towns and cities were able to give a presentation on their power strategy, and theirs is very, very, very aggressive nuclear generation. So they're kind of going into the new frontier here, full steam ahead. And their presentation is very ambitious and positive and forward thinking. This is the way forward, So they're embracing it. Now, I didn't go talk to 100 citizens of Pasco, Richland, and Kennewick to see how much they're really embracing it or not, but this is their strategy, at least for now. I don't see that Grant PUD has taken that sort of stance, nor have they taken any other real stance, as far as I can tell, which direction they're going to solve the problem or what their intention is.
Well, they have purchased property for it.
Sure.
Plan.
And there are a few different directions they're going there. I know with natural gas, while we still need it for a short period of time, as Victor mentioned last night, things like carbon capture. Last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I know they're rolling into each one, yeah. So you have wet and dry technologies, yeah.
Yeah, and so, those are all things that are concerning, but, I can't remember specifically why we wanted to bring this up in like fashion, but I think part of it, again, is just to come to some understanding of what everybody's after. Sure, there are certain citizens of Grant County who probably would prefer to see zero power generation here, but they're probably a small minority. So there's, across the spectrum, there's all opinions, right? Being in the trade that I'm in, with the background that I have, any and all of these are okay with me personally, but I'm just one of 7 council members in one city. So, again, kind of understanding maybe what it is that the county sees as priority here or path forward.
I think it's not, the issue is nationwide. I mean, we hear about this everywhere. There was a great study done a couple of years ago, Mackinac Center called Rating the Grid. It's a really great read. Former Commissioner Stone found that. Jim and I just happened to meet with somebody in Virginia who's dealing with this. He is as green as they come, full on with the green program. Says there's no way we can go forward without natural gas, because there's no way you can bridge the gap. And he talked a lot about carbon capture. So it's really the only way. And he talked a lot about small modular nuclear. The issue is, what's the state going to allow? We can say we want whatever we want, but we're stuck with whatever the bureaucracy is allowing us to do. And that's, I think, where one of our big problems is, and where we could really together.
Well, Alex Ibarra spoke at the Freighted Council like a couple of weeks ago, and what he is making it very clear to the other side is that we want everything green by 2030, 2035, right? But the reality is it's impossible, as everyone knows. And part of it is even the logistics of, if you had everybody having an EV on each block, let's say, you would have to change all the transmission, all the wiring and transformers, which are a number of years out in production and so forth. So it's impossible. And he said, maybe 2045. If that was really the route that things are going. So he believes that he's able to start to speak to the other side as an engineer and not as a Republican with an R next to his name. And so I just don't, I think that's going to get pushed. I mean, even if they don't change it, they'll go from 2030 to 2035 because there's just no way. So, and Joe Wynn, who's in charge of now the Department of Commerce, is well aware of that, and he's open to gas. But it's more about just giving, let's say, the port a 10-year window to then get the greener stuff in place and then stop the gas use. So I think that's more realistic of a goal than anything.
Yeah, so legislatively, like with our lobbyists and whatnot, we're looking to definitely make our voice heard on this part of this, so to have a unified voice again at a regional level to say, yeah, we're number one, good with natural gas, and we believe it's a prudent and necessary measure to take for a temporary amount of time, unless it's proven that carbon capture is the bee's knees and it becomes cheaper and whatnot, maybe it's not a temporary solution. There's an entity in Moses Lake, 12, which takes that particular product and turns it into gasoline or gasoline-like products, naphtha. So there's always opportunities there where you could have natural gas power generation, you know, where you're then giving the byproduct to 12 that turn back into aviation fuel. So who knows what the future looks like there. But again, I'm in favor of natural gas. I'm in favor of nuclear power. Solar power makes sense to me where we can use it. It's free from space. So,
For now.
yeah.
We get all the tax on
I'm
it.
maybe China will start taxing us for it. So again, I think we're going to be, you know, our position with the state, I agree, everybody's got the problems with it, but I've also heard from entities, being in the business that I'm in, well, you could go to Louisiana and just build a natural gas plant across the street from your project and provide your own power. And there's no regulation at this point. It becomes a matter of cost, right? I don't think we're ever gonna get there, but you know, it's probably incumbent upon all of us here to let people over there know. We need to be a little bit more like that than we are now. So we're looking again to push the state toward allowing some of these projects, at least on a temporary basis. The natural gas, the main one, and then whatever it's going to take to allow for nuclear power. I think what the QD is telling us is that's still cost prohibitive. So, any thoughts or questions on that?
Also, just asking the state to broaden the CCA funding to power for renewable power, gas, things like that, not just for, you know, the traditional green energy projects.
What is
Climate Commitment Act.
Your favorite.
I know that's the way.
That's what you just got blocked out like.
I did totally, yeah.
So I think that, to piggyback what Cindy said earlier, we've talked about this as a council and for many years. You're exactly correct. We need to figure out how to capture basically the governor's office wanting the businesses that he moved to Grant County, or not, he didn't move, but help sway to get here and put us in a position where we're at, basically. And it's coming back to say, leverage that conversation, like you say, with the governor's office to say that, hey, that's great that we had this green power you love so much, but now we don't have it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with the
They do
water.
want some business, so
They-
are you aware of, are you working with Pat on Quincy?
A little bit, yeah.
So I know we've got a big entity coming to Quincy
Sure.
where they were gonna leave. I mean, they did pretty much
Yeah.
have to leave and they decided, wait, I have the same power problem back there. So last I heard that the state was working with them, giving them some allowances.
Yeah, and again, until it's inked, we'll see.
But you know, it's frustrating because we
No.
know we've got good paying jobs, a lot of jobs
Bill,
coming.
you talking about
with these-
Nucor?
With these businesses coming. That's not the only one, but I know the governor's office, they were at the table. Listening to our concerns.
You know, one of the things that was talked about at the port is making it, you know, an airport. We're getting a small airport set up so that you can have flights, but they need about 10 million to do that, and that would come from the state. And Joe Wynn actually was open to that because he's saying as much as we're gonna have to keep on coming back and forth because of all the development, driving, you know, 6 hours at, you know, each, you know, back and forth and then time, you can't get any work done. So even just from that standpoint, they were like, it makes sense. So he's coming here, I think, more often than the governor is.
I'm sure.
Because this is really one of the few spots of growth in this whole state.
Well, with Wenatchee, did Wenatchee close their commercial airline down? But it's like 500,000 a year to maintain that.
Right.
cost. But it would be nice to have Moses there.
Yeah.
Gotta relocate everybody.
Yeah, when we had it for a short
It
time.
was nuts.
So even though everything from the state moves real slow, but I mean,
It's
they-
moving.
but it's moving and they're open to things because I think they're desperate for growth. And this is one of the few areas that has the potential.
You ready for the landfill update?
Yeah.
Andy, are you running that?
Sure.
All right.
Last year, our consultants put together basically a cost benefit analysis of two different options. Collecting the refuse and hauling it to a regional site like Washtuckner or Wenatchee. And then the other option was pursuing a brand new site. Our current site is set to be full in 2036. So our consultant presented that to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. They unanimously recommended a new site rather than the hauling option. Took that to the board, they agreed, so we are pursuing that option. And our consultants are helping with that. So that's where we are at.
So, with these landfills, we're dealing a lot with PFAS, like
With what?
PFAS,
Oh, yeah.
forever chemicals. How is that, I mean, is that a big issue now when you're building these landfills, that you have to contain all of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's been, once they started doing liners, things like that, the idea that is that nothing escapes that. It all goes into the leachate pond and is collected. But yeah, PFAS is becoming a bigger and bigger deal almost monthly. People are learning more about it.
Yeah, something I didn't think about at first, we collect all the sewage at, one treatment facility in Moses Lake collects 80% of the sewage that we process. So you get, actually, those are points of concentration for those chemicals. I never thought about this, so we were applying, this wastewater to non-food crops, but now you can't necessarily do that even. You have to somehow, contain and mitigate the PFAS that accumulates in the evaporating ponds. So, and then if the ponds aren't lined properly, that can leach. And then you have another zone of flume in the ground, right? So it's been a developing thing that's.
Yeah, I think you're gonna
It
see
is
a lot more
struggle.
of it.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The list of stuff that it's used in, it's almost everything.
Right.
So it's fairly new. I think we're gonna see a lot of changes probably fairly quickly. So, we just, at our current site, phase 4 is being constructed, the fourth and final phase. It's supposed to be done and turned over to us the end of this month. And that's the final phase of that site, so.
And does this landfill take refuse from outside of the county?
Well, there is one.
Not to our knowledge.
Good answer.
No, it's a local landfill.
How much would that increase our capacity percentage-wise?
How much of what?
The new site?
Well, I don't know. We don't have a new site yet, so it depends on the acres. And the current one we have right now is roughly 80 acres to give you an idea. So.
I mean, was there a goal as to how much more we want to increase capacity?
Well, personally, I'd like as much as I can get.
No, I know.
But no, I don't know yet, because we don't have a site, but, like I say, the one we're on is about 80 acres.
Okay.
So,
And then.
And the sites we're looking at are 300 plus.
Oh, okay, so that's significant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
300-400 larger.
After a landfill is full, is there, at what point is that real estate returnable to use?
So,
Yeah, basically never. So once it's full, it gets capped and then you start post-closure care. And they estimate it's about 50 years worth roughly. Some of our plans, you know, I actually had a person approach me at a Wasatch meeting and was asking, they come back in and they figured out how to put solar panels on a closed landfill, even though it's shifting and, you know, as it degrades. The other thing I've thought about is planting shrub step. Sounds like we're gonna need tons of
They
that.
can dig around and find some treasures.
Yeah, you know, like, you can't use it for anything, so, I mean, they have put parks and things like that. I do not intend to do that.
Yeah.
For shrub step mitigation, I'm not sure yet.
over that.
It'll be, our consultant figures 50 years of, you know, and then the methane should stop,
Okay.
all that should be done.
Well, that's an answer. It's not forever. Okay.
So,
Radioactive shrub stem.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Species.
And there's no radioactive, it's like good eating, there's healthy environment.
And there's proposed changes now, you know, to remove a lot of the organics, the food waste, to remove that from the waste stream, which would reduce the amount of methane that's released. Part of the thing we struggle with that here is, I believe the closest place that takes food waste is in Leavenworth. So there's nothing local where we can have food waste recycled.
Is there a private entity in Leavenworth that does that?
Yeah.
Like a waste to energy or what is it?
I think they compost it, but,
Oh, yeah, okay.
you know, City of Quincy has that one, but it's very small. They're, I don't know, 15 acres or something. They set their piles, so they can't do much, can't take any more. I bet they're not willing to either, but they don't have much locally.
so going back to PFAS, if I remember right, the county closed one of the private wells because they found PFAS in it. Is that my recollection?
I don't know about that. I honestly don't know. We closed a private well.
Because of the PFAS.
It could be. I will have to look into that.
So I'm kind of wondering, I know I've thought of this before, how many wells in that area, private wells have some PFAS or not aware of?
How many wells does the county monitor out there?
300.
Just wondering.
There's a lot of exempt wells.
I know.
Probably don't need just.
No, you don't, it's not gonna shoot, it's a special test. You're not gonna do it. It's just a normal quality test.
Well, and I know, I mean, I have the Department of Ecology comes to my wells every year in Cascade Valley as a service, just to make sure that it's not affecting our wells down there. I've never had a report come back, that's come back bad. Unless they're just not telling you the truth.
I think we usually have high notices.
Scogs looks great.
You're gonna drink it all his life, he said.
There's a lot of old wells too that aren't recorded.
Sure.
Two on the courthouse site that aren't on ecology site.
They're listening.
You know, we decommissioned a well at the jail site that was not on ecology site, or if it wasn't, you couldn't tell what it was.
Right.
There's a lot of that in certain areas.
Sure. No, they're all over.
But those are all potential contamination.
But there could have been, I believe there was a home near the landfill, and that land was purchased, and
I don't think it was PFAS.
no, I'm just trying to, I think it was just because it was in the area, and we wanted to make sure didn't have any.
And I know looking at the map, we have purchased property around the landfill, and honestly, some of it after we purchased it, there is testing wells on it. So, but I think that's more of the remediation. There's three things going on out there. We have closed landfill, we have active, and then we have our cleanup site. So there's a lot going on in 80 acres.
Thank you, Andy.
14 minutes left here. There's one item to talk about.
Oh, no, flip the page over.
Let's hurry it up then. Council of Government.
In time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep that somewhat brief. So Council of Governments, I think will be still pursuing with AGCCT as well, but as was mentioned before, depending on what we're doing with the Council of Governments, the county probably should be that council. As we look at this though, I mean, there's obviously a logical one with the ABCCP switching from just an association to a council of governments because there are certain advantages that come with that formalized body. So we could also use that body to perform some of the other items that we're talking about, the countywide planning policy and whatnot. So, I am currently the president of ABCCT, and I've brought this up a few times. It just wasn't explained very well, I don't think, yet to the rest of the city. So we'll need to re-engage them on that. But part of this also is, as we move through these particular issues we have, one of them being water and another one being transportation. There could be a countywide council of governments, but again, does somebody in Electric City really have anything to do with Moses Lakes or Euphrates water issues? And so how, what does that look like? So I think the council of governments is still appropriate to move ABCCT more toward that, but as we deal with the individual issues, we may need to form different coalitions. Some may cross the county line, but I think for the purposes of having it on the agenda for today's meeting, it's just to have that idea be floated. The county would participate in the council of government that we would start through AGCCT, yes, Rob?
Yeah, and the next AGCCT meeting is October 30th in Soap Lake. And we're going to be presenting draft bylaws of the Council of Governments at that meeting.
Yeah, so we'll invite this one representative of the county to be at that meeting.
That'd be great.
Commissioner Jones has historically attended those, since I've been
Mr.
on.
Gaines, Kevin's been too.
However that works for y'all. Send you an invite. Catherine's been doing some outreach to that, I would assume. Hopefully the process will go a little bit better than it has in the past. I don't know if maybe council of governments could be something that could create people from like the something as well. For a whole.
That was me, but now it's more Jim and Tom.
It's a secret, it's a secret.
What?
I saw the agenda today.
Is it? Well, it's already just.
Not on our agenda. I said I saw the agenda.
No, it's not on there, but I did,
Yeah.
I mentioned that because the council of government, it could be another opportunity to put a reminder in the space that, hey, we're
Just today.
trying to do this.
Kevin was there.
No, I don't.
And that was
I'm
part
not
of
in
the
there
thing,
anymore.
I think one of the
No, I'm sure he does.
questions that was raised with last year at the lead summit, or a point that was made, is that we need to make sure we keep in contact and keep the initiatives going that come out of the summit, otherwise
Absolutely.
people get together once a year to meet and talk about stuff that doesn't happen. Anyway,
I guess, did any action come of that lead summit?
not thus far, no.
I mean, it wasn't really a planning meeting, it was more of an informational presentation. Why that's important is, I mean, there's a million topics that we deal with every week that probably the Moses Lake City Council has no idea we even deal with. And especially the public. I
Mhm.
You look at the animal outreach was a giant deal in the media and on social media about like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already in full motion with funding backing it, yet the public, when are they gonna do something?
Yeah, right.
So the lead is more of a communicate to your peers of what's going on, and then these are where you, like, something like this is where you're gonna make a difference.
I don't know that there's any actionable items. It's all.
Not yet, maybe in the future, if it got bigger and you did breakout groups and stuff. But then you have to continue those groups
On.
monthly.
So Dustin, since you originated this, what's the next step as far as this group? Are we going to meet quarterly or?
That's really for us to decide today.
I think it'd be great. I think there's a lot of information that, well, and you have concerns that things that the county that we should be doing that we don't know. And I always thought we had the urban development regulations already in place from Damien, only to find out, I'm like, are you sure we don't have them? Because I think it was more of, it wasn't written up, but we would kind of reach out to the city. Sometimes I think we connected, sometimes there was a disconnect, and then we find out we've got a project, the city's ticked off. You know, we didn't know, we should have included, and I think this is great. Because when we're making a decision, I think I get super
I
focused.
think it would be, well, I think it would be extremely important.
It's for the sheriff, so they can.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both ingrained, like you said, with the same consultant. But we've all had consultants that go down a direction that we might not all be in unison with. And it's an opportunity, I think, at that same time to sit down in the various channels of that, if we're on schedule to meet, to just have those conversations.
Some of this is gonna have to occur at a staff. Right? I mean, I think for this spot, this whole entire group of people to meet, we'll even invite Scott to next time.
Did you forget to invite somebody?
No, I'm
No.
just kidding.
We would have had another hour.
Well, maybe we do this semi-annually, and then like for transpo or long-term planning or something, it could be 3 council members and 1 commissioner that meets, you know, on an intermediate
Right.
sort of.
Well, my point is that otherwise things kind of die on the
Yeah, I
vine,
agree.
right? And if this was the private sector, we would be having certain dates that we would have to meet to get certain things done. So like, if we talk about the bridge crossing, right? We would have to say, okay, do we all agree that we have a date set for step 1?
Yeah.
To have it done, right? And, you know, I think that's what things need to be done. And, you know, like from your standpoint, I mean, you know, I may say, can we get it done by the end of the first quarter? And you may say that's not possible because of the permits or design work or consultants involved and so forth. But that's how you keep on moving it along. But because without the date sets, it's gonna be hard.
How much does this be done for renewable? Or mechanisms that bring us together to do all that?
Yeah. I like that. Bring it back there.
Yeah, I mean, that's just helpful, it's just helpful for my counter, and consistency to the development community. And that's the key, is that the development community is clamoring for consistency. They want predictability, they want consistency, and that's what we don't have right now. And that's what we need to get to. That ILA will go a long way in creating that.
Well, yeah, I think part of it also is that each entity has to actually do something. So if we're gonna take the lead on the bridge, for instance, I'm fine with that, but again, then we're gonna need to formalize it to get everybody, but somebody's gonna have to spend money to start with. Who is that? And then what are the guarantees that every other party's gonna pony up when they are supposed to as well? It's gonna take resources to do some of this stuff, so.
And that's the capital facilities planning that is, you know, required on both levels, so on the city level and on the county level, and now is the time to be doing that. You know, we have to identify the project.
And look at those projects together.
Right, so one thing I didn't bring up earlier, but for the water strategy, if we regionalize and we say, okay, the county is gonna set up the utility or whomever it is, or it becomes its own entity, you know, what I'm thinking is we're probably, as I mentioned last night, we probably want a lobbyist just for that. So at that point is who pays for the lobbyist? I think we would need to collectively put funds together to do that.
That would be an SIP grant.
Potentially. No, I mean,
It
absolutely.
would be, it's.
It fits the need.
Yeah, and so that's where, again, then everybody gets buy-in though, is that, so we're all sharing the burden, and this is what, because I think that's, I recognize that as being a major roadblock, and nobody takes the initiative first to say, we've set aside $50,000 for this thing, with the expectation that once we get the first part done, everybody else, you know. So that, I think, for the water thing, again, that's, I think, regionalization is part of it. We want to look at first of all, the water rights issue itself. See if the state will view that any differently than they do today. So again, for that, if we go out and hire a lawyer or a lobbyist, that could benefit some other town, and how does that get taken care of?
You're talking about these junior water rights that have been used,
Well,
overused.
we have deep water rights. We have more than enough deep water rights.
Yeah.
We just don't have deep water.
Right, but if we're a trading program, our first position is give us some, our second position is we'll trade with you. Our third position would be give them to us at a significantly reduced rate.
So part of the point of the lead conference is to bring together leaders from all over Grant County, right? All the different people that talk from 30,000 foot view. Dustin, what about putting together a presentation, talk about that, and talk about how to accomplish that at the lead conference?
Perfect.
Since you'd have all of those people there.
The problem is right now, from a planning standpoint, everything's full.
Well, I've got 40 minutes.
Well, but I mean, yeah, one individual, that's what I'm saying. You could tackle a different topic with that.
I'm just talking about floating the idea.
Sure, no, it should be floated.
The hope
It
is that
should
I
be
think
floated.
part of the hope of the lead conference is getting all the right people in one spot.
100%.
Yes.
Yep. I think it's a great overview.
Well, I have a 40-minute segment where we're gonna talk about the comprehensive plan. I'll give my segment. No, I don't want your segment.
It's your segment, Tom.
And that was my point, and that's the point that I made, you know, Tom and I sit on the advisory committee that created the lead of that. And so the point that I made then is that I have time available should, you know, Vivian and I want to stack hands or members of this group want to stack hands and make a presentation along with the points that I will make similar to today during that 40-minute segment. I just have to have deck to EDC by the 27th.
Kevin and I are obviously in the development and real estate kind of state of, all this is relative. I mean, if we don't get some of these issues handled, I don't have to worry. I can retire sooner.
I mean, I could formulate my presentation based off of, you know, a lot of these agenda items. We can run it if that's would be helpful.
I will be very.
Well, especially all that planning partnerships and all that kind of stuff. It's all part of that.
Okay. So that's something the channel up in here. Okay. All right, let's do number 9 since we got 0 time left. Public safety. Anybody here?
There's gonna be
It's
new
a
jail,
jail,
that's a
it's a
jail.
jail. So, no, jail's going really well. We're still on schedule. We're under budget. We're 65% complete. We're less than 1% for change orders.
Wow.
That's very good.
Yeah.
So it's a huge lift for the sheriff and the corrections staff, you know, that are they're working with the National Institute of Corrections to rewrite all of their policies, procedures, as the new facilities, nothing like the old facilities. So they've got a huge bill department. Flags been an outstanding contract. We've had a really outstanding team
While I did this project, I didn't know that there was a magazine out there called National Corrections Magazine.
Wow.
They had a mid-year issue where they featured us as the cover story. And then I didn't know it, but just last month they came out with their new issue and they still featured us again as an object in jail. It is considered one of the most successful justice projects in the country. So we're doing really well, even with, we had to mitigate shrub steps, you know, which was a learning curve for me. We sold 34 acres of land with PUD. They had to mitigate 2 months. They had to find a place to mitigate 68.
My favorite was having the highway closed for several weeks.
And we got that roundabout done ahead of time, so.
We got to build that roundabout.
We got to build, yeah, I didn't think I'd ever be building a roundabout.
Judy and I drove through it this morning and we both loved it, right, Judy?
Oh, definitely.
I am happy to have it done, and we,
Definitely much safer.
yeah. Good comments on that.
Hey, Tom, can you talk about the Emergency Operations Center as part of the jail?
Yeah, so part of the jail is, we're building what I call a proper emergency response center for emergency management. You know, when we started to build the jail, Commissioner Jones, myself, we flew to Florida to look at some of the jails. One of the things we really noticed was the EOCs that were there. They were really, I mean, this was the state that's used to activate a couple of times a year. So while we couldn't go to that level, we did build an EOC that was large enough for, you know, our staff or the emergency management staff to work with their community partners. And hopefully that outreach is happening. You know, I don't have any control over that. We're definitely building, you know, regionally like VM so that they can work with their local partners. So we're excited. I know they're excited about it. They're excited to get out of the closet we built home over here. And start that, and that's just part of that giant group. So K9 as well. K9 facility out there that they'll be able to train the original partners there. Yeah. It's
Exciting.
So the old facility?
Tour after this, but we forgot about setting that up.
Well, I've been trying, and Leidig's pushing back a little bit. They don't have this many hard hats and vests.
Fair enough.
But I'm happy to start, you know, we can do some tours. I'll work on a date, stay in touch. And it might not be this whole group at once, but you should see it. It's a massive project. I can't say enough about Leidig. They've been an incredible partner and done an incredible job on the project. And I think the public will really happy to see this. But there's a lot of thought about what happens 20, 30 years from now.
Sure.
Trying to make sure that the next facilities guy doesn't have to mitigate shrub step. Find water. City of Ephrata, you know, they helped out. I mean, we cited it as an essential public facility. It was not UGA. They had to bring us water and sewer. So, but in that partnership, we've been able to get Purple Pipe come to the port and do some joint projects there that will really help out. So it's been great. It's been a great partnership.
What was that completion date again?
They're looking to occupy in June, April, May, June, in there. I think the construction isn't the hard part. I think it's the transition of corrections. You know, when they move in, it has to work, it has to be ready to go, and they have to have it. And it's completely different.
Can't have a lot of hiccups.
So,
Right.
they've got
I don't think about that. That's gonna be a real rodeo to move all those inmates over there.
Well,
Well,
when you tour, you'll just see how much bigger it is inside when you're
Right.
walking around. It's pretty amazing. The way it's built, the design of the jail, I think is outstanding, but it's a complete change.
I thought you were just gonna tell everybody, quit committing crime for like 6 months.
I wish they would.
Yeah.
Very proud of
Everybody
yourself.
wishes they would.
So I have to pack a lot of stuff.
You know, and this state is not an easy state to build a jail in, so.
Just like anything else.
It's not an easy stage, but-
Regarding public safety, yeah. What about the old facility or the one that will be vacant then?
Still working on that.
Okay,
So,
still haven't made a decision on what to do with it.
Tearing it down would be the-
I would love to do that, but of course, that's a budget thing, you know. I know our courts can use, you know, we had a meeting some time ago with our superior and district courts, they long-term, they'd like to get more courtrooms. You know, there's been a lot of different discussion with a lot of different groups on how best to do that. Quite a few ideas floated, no decisions.
Cheryl ended up costing us a little bit more than those thought it was gonna cost, so our intention was to build the jail and borrow enough so that we could remodel this, but
It
did
ended
not
up being
happen.
a much larger campus than the original.
Well, our police chief last night just mentioned that opening of the jail will drastically change how he does business. He's very, very optimistic. Tom, you might also bring up the fact that we'll have a meeting room in that facility for.
Yeah, there is. There is a media room built onto the end of emergency management. Obviously, if there was a catastrophic event and they were activated, it's a room where they would address the media. It's large enough to be, I've offered it up to Freddie City Council if they remodel, they're getting ready, they bought Rite Aid, they're gonna move, they're gonna be under construction. So they might have to have city council meetings. That's a place they could do that. Our commissioners might have commissioner meetings there from time to time. But if there was a need to, address the press, that one was built for that. And it was built from the standpoint of community partnerships. So.
Just one more thing, emergency management, I can do it in 30 seconds. Yeah, so I met with Josh Sainsbury, the chief deputy over emergency management. We talked about the city and the county doing more coordination, including his willingness to put on a tabletop exercise specific to Moses Lake sometime next year.
Great. Yeah, I was going to ask, what are we doing organizationally?
We haven't had a tabletop exercise for
Yeah.
quite a while, right?
Well, I knew a former county commissioner, she used to tell me all about that.
They were riveting.
She felt like she was like really important when she was doing it, so.
It goes down roads, goes down schools.
They will have the facility to do that.
Great. All right, well, I think it was great discussion today. This is what the council in Moses Lake has been yearning for a long time. We talk a lot about maintaining and in some cases rehabilitating and enhancing the relationships we have with people in Grant County. It's not something we just say, it's something we really want. It's a countywide community, that includes us, all of the other cities, the port, certainly the PUD, and last but not least, all of you here. So these meetings are crucial to what it is we're trying to do. The major takeaways I have from this, I think that we can both work on together immediately is a given bridge crossing. We want to talk about the location of that and share notes. And then probably develop a strategy to get community input from both stakeholders in and out of the city. So that out of the city, you all help on. And then including the other transportation concerns we all have in May Valley moving into our comprehensive plan phase, to address some of those things in both of our comp plans to make that message loud and clear to the state. And then looking at, I think Commissioner Carter at least showed some interest in developing a countywide utility for water and or sewer is needed. So we would love to pursue that. Anything else?
ILA, right, we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then our.
The obvious ILA.
Yeah,
Which I think should be tied in with this conference.
I was just really thinking, this is the last meeting of the structure, because I think you got sucked into a couple committee.
That would be the easiest one to tackle right off the bat.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just get it going.
Yeah. So, I mean,
What are we anticipating on a timeframe?
yeah,
3 weeks.
yeah.
A month?
Our city attorney is reviewing what
Yeah.
Jim sent us.
It's already in the process of being reviewed, which is good. His review.
So
That's the first.
that's what he's trying to say.
What I'm trying to.
So are we done? Are we done since we're all talking?
Oh, yeah, so is
And then we keep
one
on
last
building
thing. I do have a City of Richland water treatment facility tour on Friday, October 24th, 10:30 a.m. So if you guys want to go, Here's your waiver forms. I just have to give them the number that's gonna go. So
Hang on.
you just let Caitlin or Barb know or
Slippery
call me.
devils.
And then
That's
obviously
nice.
we're
When
gonna
is
go
it?
as a group, we'll put it on our
When did you say it was?
Friday the 24th at 10:30.
Do you need a little?
I'll go.
Bam.
Friday,
Bam.
great.
Yeah, we didn't really have a very good schedule open.
Oh, everybody got a copy of the bylaws?
You did.
No, he just gave you a copy.
I just.
Oh, that's right, okay.
Yeah, you just
So
get, you
I'll
get Ron to
I'll
get it
this
to
to Rob.
Which bylaws are these?
These are just a sample for, the planning road committee.
Oh, yeah, plan road.
Are we done with official business?
We are.
All right, it is 12:12 PM and we are going to adjourn this meeting. We'll be back in session tomorrow at 2:30 at Kids Hope for reaccreditation.